Hello everyone, this is China Paradigm, where we, Dashi Consulting, interview seasoned entrepreneurs in China. Hello everyone, I'm Matthieu David, the founder of Dashi Consulting and its podcast China Paradigm. And today I'm with Milad Nouri. You are the founder of YOOSourcing, and YOOSourcing is, as you said on your website, a collaborative and decentralized solution for global sourcing. More precisely, actually, it's an app, an app, as we say in China, you can download, and you have information on suppliers, producers in China. You can geolocalize them. You can know what other people think about them. You can see their rating. So basically, you are competing or complementing platforms like Alibaba, big platforms, where you find supplier, you try to find reliable ones with different model of how to know why they are reliable. Could be comments, could be rating, could be certification. So that could be very interesting to understand how you develop it and what business model you have been using it, because this industry is a 20-year industry now already. So, and you are innovating in it. Thanks for being with us. And the first question is, what currently is the size of your sourcing in terms of views, downloads, number of clients, or anything you would like to share?
Yeah. So just a few words about YOOSourcing. So we call ourselves more as a solution than a platform, because as you said, we actually complete what all the other platforms they provide. So we consider platforms like Global Sources, Alibaba, like the Google to find suppliers. We are more like LinkedIn, TripAdvisor, and let's say WeChat between suppliers and buyers. So we bring a layer of collaboration basically between buyers and suppliers. Yeah.
What's the business model for people actually to understand how you work and what clients see as value in what you do, because people pay for the value?
Yeah. So the business model, we have two versions of our solution. One is the public version, which is a freemium model. So basically most of the features, they can use it for free, and there's actually limited access if they don't have a premium account, or as we call it in China, VIP account. So that's mostly the target for this type of solution is mostly SMEs based in China in terms of suppliers. And we also actually have most of our suppliers today are out of China, basically because we didn't do so much advertisement yet in China. We're working on that. But 80% of our users are out of China. So we have suppliers from Vietnam, Bangladesh, Indonesia, all over the Asian countries. We even have like in East Europe, and the buyers basically from all over the world, mostly based in the US and Europe in terms of buyers. So to give you some figures, we launched this the app 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. We have over 200,000 companies that are registered in the system, and what we use also is to increase our database. We use machine learning in order to gather information about the specific supplier from all different sources. And then that also helps us to get in one place all the information about the supplier, and also we use those information for the ranking system that we are developing. In terms of like, so today, what people they can do because we are still every month we have a new version of our app. If you see in the App Store, so every month we add new features, or we sometimes we delete some features to try to fit as best as possible to our clients' need.
200,000 suppliers registered on your platform. That's not a small amount. How did you get them? Is it because you went to forums, you went to exhibitions? Is it because you did paid search? Is it because you are well ranked on Google on some topics? Or how did you get them?
So basically, we did a little bit of all of these things. So we did digital marketing, we did offline marketing by going to trade shows. We also used what I told you, the machine learning. So we created a bot to actually find. So when we have some products that some people are looking for, our bot goes in all the other platforms, finds suppliers, and try to attract them to our solution.
I
So
see.
that was actually the most effective one, because if you do like a cold advertisement on whatever Google or something, suppliers, mostly for suppliers, buyers is easier. They're easier to attract. Mostly for suppliers, especially Chinese suppliers, for them, there is only one platform in the world, and it's Alibaba. And so if you go with something new, it's very difficult to attract them. So what we do, for example, you're looking for, I don't know, headphones. And after, when you do the search, first we show your the result of the suppliers that we have in our platform. And at the same time, our bot goes and in different platforms tries to find the best ranked suppliers in all these platforms, and then contact, because we have the contact addresses of these suppliers on those websites. We send them an email with the inquiry of our buyer. So basically, when they receive our advertisement, it's basically a real inquiry. So that's the return rate is very high.
I see. So initially, I saw that you were scraping the web after a request, and then you were putting this data into your platform. But what you do is not that you put the data in the platform. Maybe you do it, but you do more than this. You send an email to the suppliers to say, hey, we have a request.
Yeah, we don't put the data in our platforms. We send the request to them. They have to sign up. They have to pass the KYC, and then they put the information in our platform. So we don't pump information and put in our platform, because then there is no interaction. If the supplier is not aware about the inquiry on our platform, well, if there is a request, nobody's going to reply that. So what we do is to just bring them to the platform, and then they have to do their job. Basically, we don't do the job for them.
I see. So people download your app to find suppliers. Then if you have the supplier, they can contact through your app the supplier, which is rated. You have the location, you have pictures also of what they do. And if you don't have them on the database, then you are going to scrap the web, send an email to those suppliers in the hope they are going to register to your solution.
Yes.
And then interact with the potential buyer. Do I miss anything in your solution? So I understand that it's connecting suppliers with buyers. Do we miss something?
So basically, our biggest difference is that as we are using we are doing a decentralized process, because today, the sourcing process is very much centralized by those websites that we just mentioned, centralized by the trade shows, centralized by sourcing offices. Is a very much centralized process. And the problem with that is that the cost is getting higher and higher for sourcing, because of the labor, because of not only the manufacturer's cost, but also the sourcing office's cost. Because some big sourcing companies have a few hundred people just doing sourcing and looking for suppliers, and their role, basically, at the end of the day, is just to create trust. That's basically the role of, obviously they're going to do some management, project management, etc. But they're there to be close to the factories, to communicate with them, to create trust. Okay, so in order to decentralize that the whole process, we are using blockchain solution, and we are using smart contracts. So that's actually our biggest, let's say, advantage of our solution.
Sorry, I was on mute. So what's your business model, and who is paying you, and where do you make your money?
Yes, so for the public version is freemium. So buyers and suppliers, they buy premium account, and then we have the white label solution for sourcing offices. So white label solution is for that. It's a white label solution that we do for large sourcing companies, and it's based on the SaaS model. So based on number of users per year.
For the VIP solution or premium, as we say in the West, and in China we say VIP, what features do we get?
So for the features that, some of the most important features that you get for the premium accounts are the ranking of the suppliers based on everything, all the orders that they had in the past with the buyers. That's a very crucial information that they have. Then we have other features that are then unlimited, like getting actually, we use machine learning to match buyers and suppliers based on their profile, their geolocation, based on the portfolio of suppliers or clients. So we use all this information to do the matching. So basically, you don't need to do, active sourcing search for. We just post whatever you want, and we do image recognition to know what's the product you're looking for, and using the machine learning and knowing your profile, we're gonna match suppliers with you. So that's one of the top two features that the premium accounts they get.
You mentioned a big word which is very trendy now, the word blockchain, and it's always I feel a bit overused in China now. Even the subway is saying that they're doing blockchain. I don't understand why. So what in your context is blockchain? How a decentralized contract makes sense? Does it mean that everyone on the platform would see who is signing with whom? So to assess that there is a signature and there's a contract, how blockchain is used within your platform?
Yeah, you're right. When we started 3 years ago, it was like the beginning of blockchain booming, and we started thinking the solution, thinking blockchain. But then we saw that actually it's a technology that still is, even today, still like just emerging, just developing. And at that time, it was really the beginning. So then we thought, okay, we have to, and also at that time, if you remember, there were so many like blockchain companies, and they were putting blockchain in everything, and even today, and raise a lot of money based on white papers and stuff, no product. So we thought that what we have to do first is to create a product that people are actually using, and after that, if we see that it's actually necessary, we bring blockchain technology into it. Okay, so we took another approach, and then we started. So we had two parts: product development that we are doing, and doing research on blockchain to see if it actually makes sense. Because a lot of cases of business models, it's useless to use blockchain. It just bring you more cost rather than solving your problem. So after that, I also took a executive course at MIT only about blockchain, and in order to clarify how to use blockchain in real business solution. Okay, so just to explain to you how we use that, we use smart contracts. Okay, we didn't create a new blockchain, whatever. We are writing smart contracts. So basically, we are dividing the process of purchasing in 6 different stages, and at each stage, it's verified. The stage is verified.
16 or 60? Sorry,
six.
Oh, 6. Sorry.
Yeah. So that allows us to trace everything that happened during an order between a buyer and supplier. So let's take the scenario of a buyer placed an order to a supplier in China or wherever else. They sign a smart contract with all the terms of the contract, like delivery time, payment term, etc., etc. And at each step of the manufacturing, we verify, or some third-party companies, they verify. For example, for quality inspection, most of the time use quality inspection companies. And today what happens is that we contract them, they go to a factory, they say, oh, the cargo is okay or it's not okay, and that information is gonna stay there. And is, you know, if you want to retrieve that information 2 years after, we have no idea how to retrieve that information. But that information is very crucial to know the performance of the supplier. So that information, using smart contract, private key, knowing who actually input that information in the blockchain is crucial to trace.
Does it mean, sorry to interrupt, but I really want to understand. So does it mean that when you say blockchain, does it mean that you collect information on different steps of the contract and manufacturing process and so on your platform? Or does it mean that, as I understand blockchain in cryptocurrencies, for instance, that actually every user is going to some way download information or get information and store themselves information? So actually it's totally decentralization storage. Where do your blockchain is active? Is it because you collect every step of the process on your platform? And this is, yeah.
There's a different, blockchain has many different features. You know, the one that is used in cryptocurrency, which is, for me, is like 5% of the blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, is just to have a decentralized, let's say, Excel file where all the transactions you have, everybody has the copy of all the transactions. This is what Bitcoin blockchain is about. And every time there's a transaction, there is an update on the Excel file, and you know, everybody gets the update. So these are like public blockchains. So for our blockchain is a private consortium blockchain, we say. So not everybody can become a node. Not everybody can have a copy of all the transactions. So we have to select who's going to become a node. Understand? So that's called consortium blockchain. So in that case, what is important is because in our industry, the data is very sensitive, is very private, right? And we cannot just show, for example, Carrefour place order, how many orders to this supplier or whatever. Those information are private. So we have to keep the privacy of the blockchain. But one thing that blockchain, and also something very important to know, you know, we don't register big data on blockchain yet. We don't have this capacity. For example, we cannot register an image on blockchain because it has a lot of transaction costs, right? What we register is a yes or no. It's a 0 and 1. So that's why the smart contract makes that, you know, analysis of a situation. Okay, a quality inspection passed or failed. Why? If it passed, blah, blah, blah. If it didn't pass, what happened? And then that result, only that result is registered on blockchain. So it allows to have the traceability of everything that happened with that supplier.
I see. So does it mean that when I go on your platform, I can see for one supplier the different number of contracts he completed, different issues within the contract there was, and so on?
Yeah, we are working on that. Okay, it's work in progress. So we're working on that. But basically, that's what we're gonna have. So it's not only how many contracts we're gonna have. We have something even better and easier for users. We're actually using all the smart contracts plus other data. Like we have, for example, a feature called check-in feature. So every time a buyer or an inspector goes to a factory, he checks in the geolocation. So we make sure that the factory actually exists. This is one of another inputs that we have in our system. So we combine with the comments and ranking and stuff. We combine all this, and we are creating something we call a trust index. And actually we called it index with the Y because you index. So the index is basically gonna translate the performance of the manufacturer based on all the contracts, and plus that the smart contracts, we call them quantitative data. And then we have some other qualitative data that is like commenting from the suppliers, how many likes they had, et cetera, to be able to have this trust index. So basically you're gonna see a supplier, you have the trust index, is not an index that we are giving to the supplier.
Mm.
It's a decentralized index.
It's crowdsourced,
Exactly.
and you have a word for that. You use the word crowdsourcing somewhere. I interviewed recently one of the co-founder of Wikifactory, and I don't know if you know them. They're based in Chengdu, and they talk about the Internet of Production. So not the Internet of Things, but the Internet of Production. I feel you are in this field. You are in the Internet of Production to help buyers, to help people who do Kickstarters, find suppliers, reliable ones in China, for instance. I see that you are checking what Wikifactory is right now online.
I actually saw one of one of their pitch in one event actually. So
I see, and but that's fine. So in this industry, I feel, which is sourcing industry, it looks like it has been decades that it has happened. And we have big players like Alibaba. People sometimes don't remember that Alibaba is firstly a B2B platform. You have also global sourcing. You have also a DHgate in some way. I don't know. You have different players.
HKDDS,
HKDDS. Yeah, exactly. So you have different players already, which are platform. And do you feel that there is still an issue of trust? There is still an issue of assessing the quality? Is still a big topic?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously. I mean, just the case of Alibaba, a few years ago, there was a big case of fraud in Alibaba because they were giving fake gold license or because in the sourcing industry, when you are in there, you know that okay, very often you receive auditors, quality inspectors. As the process is very much not transparent, they basically can do whatever they want to inspector and receive maybe some homba and close their eyes on some quality issues, because for them it doesn't matter. Who's gonna remember that when the products arrive in the market. So that's a big problem, because to find, we call it the cost of verification. The cost of verification today in sourcing industry is very high. For example, you buy a product in your supermarket, okay, it doesn't work, you bring it back to the supermarket. But then the supermarket, they don't, as the cost is very very high, and it's very difficult to find who's actually responsible of that quality issue. That's just going to be a waste. Only in the US, the waste of quality products that are returned for consumer goods is over $250 million per year. Just the products that you return, and most of the time, the retailers just throw it away, or they cannot do anything with those. So that's a big issue, because that's just like a loss for all those retailers. So if you have a system that you can in few seconds, and that's why blockchain, one of the features of blockchain is to reduce the cost of verification. Very quickly, everything, the history of that order, what happened, who actually agreed that quality issue was not a big issue, and the cargo can be shipped out in few seconds. You can know all this, and you cannot cheat that, because everybody has to use a private key to input information. So you cannot say, oh, it wasn't me, it was someone else. So that's very important. Actually, that's going to have a huge impact. So, because today what happens is that, okay, you find a supplier in Alibaba, they might have like gold or platinum, whatever suppliers. First, you question how they got that. And then we have, in my other company, because I have a trading company for 13 years now, most of our clients, they come to us because they got cheated by some suppliers that they found, not only in this platform, but in many other platforms, because there is no transparency. You find suppliers that they look nice, they have nice video and pictures, but you don't know what's behind, if they're actually good suppliers or not. So that's a big problem of not only in this industry, like any other, like B2B or B2C or even C2C platforms, to have the transparency of exactly what's happened. And I guess that, like a lot of time in Taobao, to have a better ranking, they ask a lot of their friends to buy their products, and then do good commenting, right? So the authenticity of those comments and ranking is we can't question that.
So the word you are using actually is crowd verification. So that's the word you are using in your presentation. I was looking for it, not crowdsourcing. You have been working in the trading industry for 13 years before you had the trading yourself. What I feel that your solution is both a solution you use internally for your own actually work for sourcing for your clients, but also you are actually offering to other agents, to other people to work with their clients. Am I correct to get this understanding?
In our platform, we have three types of users. One is the suppliers, one of the buyers, and the other one are the service providers. So service providers are like quality inspection companies, trading companies, like my other trading company is a service provider by the end of the day, right? So what we want to create is more, because the whole tendency of the sourcing industry is going toward transparency. Now, H&M, in their website, they have the list of all their suppliers with their address, etc. Understand? So 10 years ago, we would all hide our suppliers because we don't want our competitors to know them. But today, when we talk, and I'm very lucky because I've talked with all the big players in the sourcing industry, from Walmart going to Decathlon and all these big players. The tendency is collaboration and transparency, because that's going to bring them a better supply chain, for them to share the good suppliers. Because if you have a good supplier and you give him more orders, he can do economy of scale and give you cheaper price. So that's win-win situation for everyone.
About the VIP solution, the VIP aspect, the premium version, how much do you charge?
So we charge $25 per month per user.
Okay.
But we're still working on that because again, what we are trying to do now is to analyze what are the features that people are using most. So we use some tools like Flurry, or I don't know if you know, to know, for example, where are the clicks. And so we do a lot of that analysis to know which part of the apps are mostly used. And actually we didn't push that much on the premium version because we are working on a new version of YOOSourcing that's going to come out hopefully in a few months. That will be more on the web based, so it's a web app, because we already have a web app, but the features on the web app, because of some technical issues, are less than the mobile app. So we're gonna bring more features on the web on their phone. So so the new version, that's why we didn't push much the premium version, because we are working now on the new version of YOOSourcing 2.0, and after that, now we're gonna really push the premium version.
I see. So what you are saying is that you are developing a web-based and not a native app. A native app being an app where you use actually iOS or Android, and you use the API and the stack of the different system, which some way is easier to upload pictures, to take pictures, to interact with the phone. But it's more difficult to develop because you have to develop different apps and you have to test them and so on. So you are more web-based app. I understand that. And
sorry. We have native apps now, and we're going to still keep native apps, but we're going to have the web version of the app. So like, for example, web WhatsApp or web WeChat that you can see, or Slack, for example. So they're not websites. That is something we call the web app. It's really like getting the application on a bigger screen, basically.
I see what you mean. So when you have WhatsApp, you can have WhatsApp on the computer and on the phone. That's a web app. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. I believe that at the beginning, you had to make some choices about the sectors to cover. I believe that you cannot have factories doing shoes and at the same time cosmetics and at the same time doing whatever it is, and you may look for even I don't know, medical devices or something which is some food in the food industry. What sectors, what segments have you focused on at the beginning?
So at the beginning, we focus on consumer goods. Okay, consumer goods is very large, right? Um, but for sure, something that we didn't focus on was food industry, because in food industry, the suppliers are, we don't change suppliers very often, and there is already a good traceability on the suppliers because I already work in food industry, so we don't have much added value. But consumer goods, there are products that you have to find suppliers because the products they change most of the time. A lot of seasonal product, and so every season you have to find or do a new sourcing, etc. So we focus on consumer goods. So consumer goods is also huge, right? So at the beginning it was mostly on the electronic consumer goods, and then we just let it, and then we had then suppliers. We also have suppliers sometimes for machines. We don't obviously block them to come to the platform, but at some point where we're going to see that there is no much request about that product, they're just going to leave the platform, right? And so the system is going to automatically be updated and focus on the suppliers on consumer goods.
I see. Are you charging suppliers more for more services, like helping them to get a smart contract, educating them on how to sign a contract with an international buyer, and so on? Is it a subject you believe that you could have growth for revenues?
Yes, so we are working on developing some services for suppliers because a lot of suppliers. They still, okay, they have maybe one salesperson who can speak English, but they still have a lot of issues in terms of marketing, how to market their company, etc. But we don't want to become like a service company to help them do their marketing or whatever. It's another business. But what we are trying to do is that creating some tutorials, some bots, maybe something that is, we don't have to put people behind that, because otherwise we're going to need like 1,000 people just to help people to develop their marketing. That's not our job. But we are using technology to try to help them to translate their documents, explain to them how to put their product or their company to present it. So we are working on that on the technology side, and also to some of them that they came to us, actually some suppliers said, oh, we have our own brand, so we would like to sell our brand directly to channels like Amazon or eBay in other countries. So we are thinking, okay, how we could use the posts that they make in our website with their products and promote their brands through all these different channels. So that's kind of a premium service that we're working on for the suppliers, because they need that.
I see. And because suppliers actually may have more money or more interest to spend on the platform to get more clients. So there is maybe a direct interest when the buyer is more cost saving on the buying purchase, the purchases and so on. I'd like to talk about Hangzhou. You are based in Hangzhou.
Yes.
How do you compare Hangzhou to other cities like Shanghai or Guangzhou or Shenzhen? What makes Hangzhou attractive to you?
So when I came to China 14 years ago, I lived in Shanghai. I worked for Alcatel as a software engineer. But I was traveling very often on the weekend to Hangzhou because I had a few friends here, and I'm from Nantes, a small city from France, and nature is very important for me. So having a lake in the middle of the city and having a lot of trees and nature was something that really attracted me about this city in terms of quality of life. But the most important part was, at that time, 14 years ago, was there was a lot of manufacturers here. So for my other company, that was a trading company and mostly like service company for sourcing and manufacturing of product, well, it make more sense to be here in Hangzhou than in Shanghai. And also in Shanghai at that time, there were already a lot of foreigners doing what I was doing, and in Hangzhou, not so much. So I could kind of differentiate myself that way. And then we had this rapid growth of Hangzhou and became the tech, the software and tech hub of China with Alibaba. Not only because we hear only about Alibaba. There's so many other companies that, there is NetEase. There is so many different companies that here they're very big actually. That most of the time we don't know them because sometimes they do B2B business. But it became this, tech hub, and it's good for us because we are always aware of what's happening, new technologies and stuff. We can get, if I put that, we hope to get some talents because of this ecosystem. But it's at the other hand, it's a little bit challenging because all the talents, they go work for these big companies and they come to startups, they expect to have the same salaries, which is not possible. So at some point it's good. On the other hand, we can get some challenges to be in this, this hub with all these, huge companies.
But about the ecosystem in Hangzhou, do you feel you benefit from the ecosystem of Alibaba and NetEase, as you mentioned, which has been created, not only on the talents, but on other aspects, such as the direct contact with them, with those big firms, the fact there is more innovations? And do you feel that you can leverage this ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I receive also many delegations here, and very often we visit these big companies, and I have contact with them. So we try to explore some collaboration with Alibaba, and mostly with Ant Financial, because they're developing also their own blockchain. I mean, they have developed their own blockchain solution, etc. But working with these big companies is very complicated there because they're huge machines. So I have contact with some of the product directors or managers of some departments, but the decision-making process is just like amazing. I mean, amazingly, extremely complex. So it's very difficult to say, but it's good to be there and to see what they do and to get inspired. And basically, if we do well in a couple of years, we would most likely be acquired by one of these companies because we're going to be here and they know us. Obviously, they know us. And they know us because actually when we launched YOOSourcing, a couple of months after, we had some new versions of Alibaba or some other websites that they took really the social aspect of sourcing, because we called, at the beginning, we were mostly like social sourcing kind of platform.
I see.
And they all changed, to their platform to more toward like posts and all these things. So we know that they know us, and it doesn't matter to be. But it becomes very competitive. So we already have, for example, 3 copycats of our solutions. One in Ningbo, one in EU, and I don't know where is the other one. But so the whole ecosystem becomes very competitive. So at some point, it's good because it pushes you to go faster. But at some point, it can be frustrating because you see your app, a copy of your app or solution, maybe even better out somewhere. But for us, it has been actually an advantage because it keeps us like motivated, and also my team, because at the beginning we are the only one doing these kind of things, this kind of solution, and my team said, "Oh, but it's taking time, and then we had a copy. Actually, so it's not that stupid what we're doing. So there's a copy. So they got even more motivated to beat them. So that's actually we try to take it as a positive point.
We're entering the last part of the talk, the interview, and that's a 10 question series. We may not
Well,
run all of them, but you can tell me which one you would like to go more in details on. What books inspired you most as an entrepreneur?
there's a book that I also use when I give my lecture. It's called International Entrepreneurship by Robert Hisrich. It's a book that explains, all the challenges of being an international entrepreneur, not only focused on China, but like generally speaking, cultural aspects, management, and etc. That's really something that gives you like real tools about for international entrepreneurs.
What do you read to stay up to date on China?
Um, I don't have much time to read, but I listen to a lot of podcasts. McKinsey and all these different podcasts, news. I try to get as much as different types of channels, but mostly like podcasts.
About China?
Yeah.
Okay. Which one
So
do you listen to? McKinsey?
One is McKinsey China. It's very interesting. It's a pity they don't do very often, but every time they do one, it's very interesting.
What else do you have?
Then it's mostly like not only about China. It's mostly about business in general.
I see.
A lot of French podcasts, mostly about news. Also, what's happening in different. Because in international trade, we are very much linked to all the geopolitical issues that happen all over the world. So we have to be like updated about everything that happens, basically, to be proactive.
What book on China would you recommend to read?
So I was when I told you I wrote a book about entrepreneurship in China that is called. It's in French. It's called Bienvenue en Chine. Welcome to China. It's a graphic novel. So basically, I try to tell my story, and I give a lot of tips and all that with some funny drawings. So I would recommend that. That's
where can we buy?
So for now, it's all distributed in French in all the French-speaking countries. And it's going to come to China soon, and it's going to be distributed by L'Arbre du Voyageur. Is a French library that is based in Shanghai, and but otherwise you just search it, and on Amazon you can find easily on Amazon. Yeah.
What productivity tool do you like best when working in China?
There is one tool actually that I like. It's called Teamvision. Teamvision is a Shanghai-based company that was just acquired by Alibaba Group. It's a very interesting tool, project management tool, nice design.
Like Trello, but available in China, working in China, right?
Yeah.
Teamvision, so team like a team in terms of a company, and Vision like the end of ambition. It's a bit surprising name actually, but when we understand how they built it, it's easy to remember. Yeah. If you had some extra time, what would you work on? What idea would you like to develop?
Mostly working on other people's idea actually, and coach some startups, because I've been coaching some startups and co-founding other startups, and yeah, I would like to spend more time coaching startups.
What is the most surprising experience you could share with the audience in China?
Surprising experience, living in China, we have surprises every day, right? So I could not remember one experience right now, but even after 14 years, sometimes I'm just, I walk on the street, I see something, and in the business situation, I get surprised of how Chinese people think, how they do stuff. That's a very pragmatic, and they don't question much as we might do in France, and they just do it, and that's always very surprising for me. They take the risk, and let's just do it, and then if something happens, we're gonna handle it.
True. What unexpected success you have witnessed in China that you would not have guessed like a few years ago or 10 years ago?
That's mostly for my first company when I launched it, like with zero investments with my co-founders, and no, we were at the right time doing the right thing, I guess, and we've met the right people. And very quickly, in 1 year, after a year and a half, we already had like a $1 million revenue. And then after 2-3 years, and every year we're like 200-300% increase. And after 6 years, we're doing like $12 million revenue. And that's, I don't think anywhere else that would be possible. And we had a very small team, 15 people, 15 or 20 people at that time. So that's, I don't think anywhere else would be possible.
At the opposite, what unexpected failure, not only on your business, but you may have witnessed in the Chinese society, Chinese environment. I share one of them I felt is that I was surprised to see actually Carrefour had to leave China. And when I arrived 10 years ago, Carrefour was a very successful company, still growing, and like a very successful French company or international business to China. So what unexpected failure have you witnessed?
I mean, there are many cases of these big companies that they didn't adapt themselves to the Chinese consumers, right? But I mean, there are many of these examples, but I would like mostly to talk about some foreign startups, foreign entrepreneurs that they start their companies here. For foreign entrepreneurs, I think it's very, very, very difficult to start. They can start, but to scale up something in China because of many reasons. Competition is something, understanding the culture, having Chinese co-founders or partners or shareholders, raising fund is very difficult. I mean, you can raise fund for a few $100,000 RMB or $300,000, but if you want to do some serious round, come on, we can count in our hand how many startups they actually did like a round in China, foreign startups. That's something is very, very difficult, and I've seen a lot of startups failing because they couldn't raise money.
But do you feel it's unexpected? Because when I think about it, do you know many Chinese entrepreneurs who are raising a round in France or in Europe on the reverse side? I feel actually for entrepreneurs, a lot of them have the opportunity to do things in China and to sometimes raise money from Chinese or being bought by Chinese, acquired or partner with them. Don't you feel actually it's a bit because we are here and we feel that we could do more as foreigners, but actually when you look at the Chinese in Europe, it's maybe even more difficult for them?
No, yeah, but it's different because like if I take the case of Hangzhou is saying that they want to become international. They want to attract foreign talents, right? So they're creating the whole environment for foreign talents. So you attract them, sure, but what you're gonna do with them? Just giving free office, okay, that's fine, that's perfect.
I see.
Nowhere else they give you that. My company, we have 3 years office for free. We don't pay taxes. We have even cash from the government, a few $100,000 RMB cash for cost refund from the government. So these are the things that are great. So they want to create that environment. Okay, so that's why it's failing to then raise and pass the cap of starting a business. That's something that they didn't, and I guess it's unexpected. That's why I said it's unexpected.
Yeah, I understand. That's true that China is communicating on, and not only China as a country, but local government as well, cities and provinces, on attracting foreign businesses. But when they are here, after, it's actually difficult for them to grow and to get financing from not only Series A, but just a bank. To get a loan from bank, it's nearly impossible. Yeah. And that's true. That's something very surprising to me, that the banking system has failed to finance SME, small and medium businesses.
Even for Chinese, So it's, but for example, in Hangzhou, we got something called the 50-50 plan, a kind of guarantee even foreign company to get a loan. So. But still, like even for visas, we still have a lot of issues. If you want interns or somebody coming for a few weeks, 3 weeks or a few months, to do. We had this issue with our designer, coming from France for a few months. We had like a lot of issues for visa, so there's still a lot of contradictions. So that's why I think they're getting there. They're going to improve, right? But right now it's like, oh, we are international. We want to attract international talent. Come here, and then we don't know what's going to happen next. And I don't think it's very reassuring for startups, because
Sure.
Of course they don't know what they're going to do in their companies, and their business model is going to fail or not. But we're kind of selling a dream to them, and say, oh, we have a lot of investors. We can get you a lot of meetings with. I did a lot of meetings with investors, but I understand them. They are Chinese investors. We have communicate. I mean, I speak Chinese, but we still have cultural differences, and they would invest on a Chinese entrepreneur easier. I understand that. I would do the same thing, right? So there is two words: the word of the investors and what the government wants to do, and they still didn't match it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for taking the time today to be with us. Very interesting.
Thank you very much.
And congratulations for everything. I mean, what you built is amazing. You seem to have 15 years. I think I interviewed people who have been 20 years, but you are close to the top, I guess, of the veteran in China. Thanks again. I hope you enjoyed it. And hope everyone enjoyed the talk. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.